Nikolai Lechky doesn't go on to have a very strong Super League career, I'll be very surprised. He's got all the skills necessary. Jordan Lilly, playing at that level, should just be carving up. I don't know why I don't know what's gone on to keep him so on the fringes at Leeds this year, to be perfectly honest. I don't know a tremendous amount about Sam Hallas. I know he's gone reasonably well while he's been with us. And Cameron Smith, predominantly from the under-19s at Leeds, but had a big hand in their successful season last year. They beat R19s 40 points to 6, I think, and he's a strong ball. Has he been captain in that? Ball in the second row, he's captain in the under-19s. He comes with a lot of pedigree in terms of that Leeds production line. So hopefully he slots in. They just had a bit of beef and take the strain off everyone at Bradford a little bit.
Yeah, Allegedly's going to keep growing and playing against men. I think it's done him wonders.
Yeah, of course it will. Absolutely. Toulouse Olympique's top 4 hopes have suffered a huge blow after halfback Jonathan Ford was ruled out for 3 months with a ruptured pectoral muscle. The 27-year-old will be operated on today after picking up the injury during the Cook Islands match with Papua New Guinea. Toulouse are currently 3rd in the championship and level on points with both London and Halifax, but Sylvain Houle's side has struggled without their playmaker this season. During his 9 appearances in this term, Toulouse have been defeated just the once. However, they've lost 4 out of the 5 games that he hasn't featured in. So a big blow to Toulouse.
Massive blow.
Not the sort of player you would want to lose. London Broncos have confirmed Rhys Williams has signed a 2-year contract extension. The Welsh international finishes the Championship's top scorer with 31 tries last season. So a good bit of business for the Broncos.
Yeah, seems settled in there, doesn't he? I mean, he'll be now 4 or 5 years by the time it ends.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
Yeah, Doncaster have parted company with head coach Gary Thornton by mutual consent. After an unbeaten start to the season, the Dons were heavily defeated by the Toronto Wolfpack 82 points to 6 and have now gone 4 games without victory, most recently drawing with the London Scholars. Their recent form has left them 7th in the League One table, a position the club described as disappointing in a statement. Doncaster's CEO Carl Hall said, "I'd like to thank Gary for his efforts. Despite results not always going our way, he has been a great professional and worked his socks off for us. Everyone at the club wishes Gary well for the future. Our season aims and objectives remain exactly the same." Which means that Peter Green, Rhys Lovegrove, Andrew Vincent and Pete Bell, will continue to take charge of first team affairs while the club looks for a suitable replacement.
Yeah, I don't think they're in any rush, and they did actually now, since I've put that in the roundup, win, but it was at Hemel, so...
Everyone wins at Hemel.
Yeah.
There you go, Shrewsbury beat. North Wales Crusaders have confirmed the signing of Joe... Am I saying Bate or Bate?
I'd say Bate.
Joe Bate until the end of the 2017 season. The prop forward has spent time at Rochdale Hornets and St Helens Academy before joining the Crusaders. Hunslet RLFC have confirmed the utility back Niall Walker has signed for the club, predominantly a fullback or half. Walker is a former Stanley junior who has recently returned to the UK after a 5-year spell in Australia. And finally, England will play a warm-up game in Perth against a team from the Affiliated States Championship before their first World Cup match in October. The match will take place during a 10-day training camp ahead of the opening game of the World Cup against Australia in Melbourne on October the 27th. What, and do you know, I won't be surprised, but I don't. What are the Affiliated States Championship?
It's all the other states that
are not Queensland and not New South Wales.
Yeah, basically, right. Like Victoria, Northern Territory,
West Australia, and all that.
Yeah, so it's.
Do we get Tasmans in that team then?
If they play, if they're good enough, I don't know. It's a run out. I half expect them to announce a game against like the NRL rookies as well.
When's that coming back, by the way?
I don't know if it's been signed up for a second season. Considering that the final had absolutely no tension on it whatsoever, and he basically signed for the club that he was already playing for the feeder club for in the first place, and then has never played first grade.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of died a little bit.
Yeah, possibly so.
Yeah,
possibly so. Still, it did mean that David Angelic got to play for Serbia.
Yeah, certainly.
Sunrise, sunset. Right, that's the news from around the world of rugby league taken care of. Let's take a look back now at round 6 of the Challenge Cup. Okay, no Super League action this week, but plenty to talk about in the Challenge Cup. Mark, we start Featherstone 24, Halifax 12. The Championship side Featherstone cruising into the quarterfinals.
Yeah. So we start with Mark W. He said, closer than I expected. If Fax had knocked on a bit less, that could have gone either way. Really good to see Championship rugby on TV.
Elliot Wrench getting in touch. Nice to hear from you. Elliot said, what a game. As a few Twitterers commented, we need more of this on TV. First minute to 80, it held your attention. Fev had the Lions' share, obviously, in the first half and could have had a greater margin had they been more clinical. The second was a mixed bag, with Fax getting back into things. A couple of injuries look nasty, so I hope they're back out very soon. All in all, more please.
Ethan O'Gorman said, why the hell is the Championship not on Sky? After this game I wanted to watch more Championship rugby. This was old school league at its finest. Two teams going at it like it was a cup final, despite someone not putting 10 bob in the metre. It was a cracking game and Featherstone fully deserved the win. Both teams did the Championship proud.
Mitchell Dart said, going to echo many other reviewers, but really enjoyed this game. Fax dug in great during their 10 minutes a man down. Always a fan of a halfback who kicks multiple field goals in a game.
Bri Davies said, enjoyable game and good to see something different on Sky. Fev v Wakey in the next round will do very nicely, please. Well, you not got that.
Nope.
As Sky had the rights to the Championship games, I'd be inclined to stream one each week, like the BBC did. One camera only. Cost the BBC about 5k a match rather than 50k a match for the normal multi-camera coverage. Oh, Bernard will be flashing away now when he's hearing that.
Simmering in Ireland. And Scoots 28 Mac, someone we've not heard from in a while. Not sure what we've done to upset her.
We heard from her all week.
And she said, a thoroughly enjoyable game. Thought Campbell did well as referee.
She's been knitting.
That's why she's not been getting in touch with us, isn't it?
Right,
she's
yeah.
been avoiding contact with us all week.
The most entertaining aspect of this game was, without doubt, the 4 attempts at drop goals. One hit in the post, one missing, and 2 going over.
Well, you like a bit of sparkle, don't you?
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Added a new dynamic.
It was good to see a derby, good to see a Championship game on television, but I'm going to be controversial. For everyone who's saying we need to see more games like this on television, well, yes, you're quite right, we do, but this is Featherstone versus Halifax in the Challenge Cup. This is a big game. This has got a bit of meaty history to it. You're not going to get that every week, so let's just all take a deep breath.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that.
There are good games every week in the Championship, though, and...
Well, yeah, I suppose.
I
feel like this had an element of peril added to it with it being a cup game.
Yeah, that helps. I think I was surprised with how well Halifax actually started the game, and
well, yeah, they've been consistent.
They were deserving of their lead when they took it, and they probably maybe could have been a little bit more up. They had obviously there was a warranty try, close call that he stepped into touch, rightly disallowed, but something switched with Fev, and I'm not really sure what, but the last 20 of the first half and the first 10-15 of the second half, they were so utterly in control that I didn't see Halifax ever scoring again through that period, really, and I felt like that was where the game was won for Featherstone.
Yeah.
Even when they then picked up the injuries in the second half, they rode through them very well and just kept the drop goals and things like that, just kept ticking things over and getting the ball back in their hands. And I think well done to them for managing the game so well.
Yeah, absolutely. They've certainly taken a leaf out of teams like Castleford's book in terms of doing that, in terms of just keeping that ball on your side of the pitch and working hard. And
yeah, well, they're not trying to try every time.
We're not trying to try every time, no. But I've got a bit of a soft spot for Featherstone. If you think back to sort of the start of the Super League pod, and we were reporting stories about fans going in and building stands, and mystery investors pulling out all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And, the club was in pretty serious peril at one time or another over the last 3 or 4 years, and they seem to have steadied the ship, and now they're a force in the Championship again. So it is nice to see that they cut the cloth. They benefit a little bit. They benefit a lot, I would say, from their dual reg arrangement with Leeds, but certainly it's a mutually beneficial arrangement, I think, as well, because Leeds get just as much from that by being out of blood their players, but it does do Fev a lot of good.
And it means Corey Aston, whilst he's still playing in the Championship, is playing behind a better pack than he would have had at Sheffield this year. You have to think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some experienced blokes up there to sort of showed away from him. He got in a little scuffle as well, didn't he? He's not afraid, is he?
Well, you wouldn't, considering the apple hasn't fallen particularly far from the tree, really, has it? In terms of willingness to get stuck in. Any more thoughts on this one?
No, just a thoroughly professional second half from Featherstone after they took control of the game.
That's it. Are we going to spoil it by talking about who people play in the next round, or shall we?
No, we'll get onto that later on.
Let's carry on.
One more thing to say. Mm-hmm. Ethan pointed out about putting 10 bob in the meter. It seemed like a bit of a health and safety hazard on that on the open terrace. There was no lighting at all.
It's an health and safety hazard if you're Rangy Chase turning up at Featherstone at any point, never mind on that particular terrace. But there you go. Okay, Dewsbury-Wakefield, 6 points to 54 in favour of the Super League side. Pretty much what you would have expected, really, from Trin. They're in good form, and Dewsbury can't buy a win in the Championship at the moment, so hardly a shocker.
Yeah, Wakey White said a strong Wakey side travelled to Dewsbury and turned in a professional performance to do away with spirited Rams outfit. Scoreline is a bit harsh on Dewsbury, who battled manfully up the middle against Fafita, Hurst, etc., but Wakey were always in control and gave them nightmares with Kate and Brown's pace. Draw Fev at home next and another Seffi Beckers. Well, you've not got Fev.
Stop calling for Fev.
Brian Davies said, nice night out after a day's work, good atmosphere with a couple of 1,000 on. Vast majority were Wakey fans. Should be a good venue for us next year if we have to move. Result was never in doubt. Plenty of tries came from simply shifting the ball out, getting the overlap and using our wingers' pace. Good to see James Batchelor play the whole game for the first time and also see Geordie Crowther get game time.
Yeah, so there are other young players at Wakefield other than Tom Johnston. Who knew? Well, we did know about them, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
It's nice to see them getting some game time, a bit more exposure now that Johnston is unfortunately injured. Mason Caton-Brown continues to take his chance on the wing, doesn't
he? He looks exceptional, doesn't he?
Yeah.
To be completely honest, his try scoring record in the last month has been phenomenal, like it was at the back end of last year as well. So you've got to say that maybe they missed certain aspects of what Tom Johnston can do leaping in the air. Mason Caton-Brown ain't got that. And what Tom Johnston can do in terms of the tackles he breaks from nowhere, launches off. But Caton-Brown can...
Well, he's got pace for days, though.
If he gets space, he's killing teams, and that's good to see. It's a nice point that Brian makes, touching on these two young players that got some good game time, because that's one thing you can do when you're in relatively decent nick health-wise in the front row. You can put in the younger kids and give them that game time that they need with reinforcements around them. And one thing Wakey have done this year more than they've done in recent years is kept fit and kept playing at high intensity in the front row.
Yes, they have. There was some nice comments from Neil Kelly, the Dewsbury coach, in the trade press as well, talking about how it's the first time he's ever experienced a 50-point defeat, where he said that we defended well, but it does sound like Dewsbury were spirited in their efforts rather than turned over by Wakefield. So perhaps the scoreline does flatter to deceive ever so slightly, because Wakefield will have, as we've talked about, pace for days outside and far more greater efficiency in terms of attacking play. But it does sound like Dewsbury's head coach is at least pleased with the stint that his boys put in.
Yeah, and take the positives in terms of the larger than normal gate, a little bit more money in the pockets and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, it does the club the world of good, doesn't it? Right, Hull FC 62, the Catalan Dragons 0 mark.
Yeah, we start with Alan Walker, who said, I missed it, but I thought we had it won to the last few.
Every credit, nice one. AK Steel 69 got in touch and says Hull's performance was conservative, as in strong and stable, with momentary lapses in concentration caused by them jizzing in their own shorts at the prospect of a landslide. Getting political, AK Steel, I like it. Whilst that of Catalan was laboured, as in they went through the motions of attacking the opposition knowing full well it made fuck all difference, and defended their territory with all the conviction of Diane Abbott's pencil in a maths exam. There's a lot to unpack in that one, isn't there?
I don't think we need to.
No. Who's next?
It's AK Steele's style, though, to make us all laugh. So
it was very good. It was well written. Did you watch the Diane Abbott interviews? Good Lord. It was just been a stuff.
Well, no, the one where she fucked up. Yeah, everyone's seen that one. Yeah. Gary Ormiston.
Yes. Sorry, I don't know why I tried to take us into politics there.
No, we risk upsetting people massively. If we go too far down that path.
Absolutely. Mark votes for UKIP. Have you seen the pictures on Twitter of the UKIP bus with its leader out for it, where someone superimposed Harry Hill on the side because the guy's bald and has glasses? hang on. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Yes. Gary Ormiston, Mark.
Said, should a Super League side be losing 62-0? I know they had injuries, but the cup once kicking into touch, what was the crowd at FC looked bad from the picks? It was 6,000